Join me as I prepare for contract roll, moving from the E-mini S&P 500 futures September 2024 contract to the next, which will be December 2024. I've done this process every time I needed to change contracts, which is 4 times a year. And if you're newer to futures trading, you may not have been through this process yet, so you can follow with me as a guide. Or perhaps you've recently changed charting platforms and you could use a little bit more step-by-step help. So I'm going to just do what I always do. I'll talk through the broad steps and I'm going to do them as they are on TradeStation. So I have my panel open to the current front months. So what I want to do is I want to go from top down, weekly, daily, then 60, looking at the new contract. But I don't want to lose my old annotations. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and make a new workspace. Okay, I'm going to bring that over to next to my weekly chart currently that I have for the ES. I'll go back to my weekly tab. I'll make a copy of that and paste it into the new blank workspace. And then I'm going to take a copy of this chart and paste it to the right. So what I'm going to do is basically turn this right-hand side chart into a blank chart and then make it the December contract with the September on the left. So the old contract on the left and the new contract on the right. Now, what you're seeing me do here could be easily replaced by just going in and making a new chart window. So file, new application, chart analysis. But because I'm a teacher, my chart analysis defaults I keep different because I like to demonstrate formatting settings and such. So I am taking a copy of the old chart and I'm going to first clean it up because I just don't want the memory to keep all this. So I'm just removing every annotation, every Fibonacci, everything that's all the way back except for the candlesticks and the RSI power zones indicator. So I'll just get all the history in and make sure I clean everything up. Okay, it's all cleaned up. Now I'm going to change the ticker, ESZ24. So it's still a clean chart, but now it's the December contract. And on the left-hand side, I have the September contract. So what I'm going to do now is take my longer-term analysis and translate it over to the new chart. I don't want to do this on a continuation chart. I want to put it on the actual contract chart that will be what will be trading, right? Here, starting in mid-September going forward. So when you roll contracts, you'll notice right away that the prices are going to have a difference. That's totally fine. We are going to account for that when we update levels and look at our research. For the purposes of getting your charts ready though, be more focused on the type of analysis, not the actual numbers. So as an example, let's take on the left here what we had, which was the middle of last week's range. Well, that's come and gone now. That's not really useful anymore. So I'm just going to delete that annotation, but I'm not going to recreate it on the December contract because it's moot, right? I might though now be interested, well, what's the middle of this week's range? It was so large and bullish. I have my fib retracements set so that there's only a 50% drawn in with the anchors, and I've added that in. So now that I've made one annotation, I want to begin to save my work. So remember that every time you're setting up a new set of charts, whether it's a workspace and TradeStation or anything else, you don't want to lose track of information. So go ahead and save the workspace. So you can see I have all kinds of workspaces here. I'm going to name this one for the contract, ESZ24. So I will never have had that before, right? Underscore weekly, or I'm deciding to abbreviate to W for now. Okay. Now what this means is I no longer need the ESU24 chart. I have everything I need over here to translate. So I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to close it. It won't be part of my approach starting when I trade this coming week. All right. So now we continue to transpose the annotations, but only the ones that are still relevant and useful. And the best way to do this is think of it like moving house, okay? You wouldn't go in and expect that you're moving to a new home or apartment, and if your belongings are in the new place, they're not still in the old place, right? You're not moving 2 beds or 2 sofas or whatever it is. So when you move something, it has to leave the old house. This process will allow you to make sure you capture all your annotations and don't leave anything behind. So let's say I'm going to go right to left. So I'm going to ignore the Fibonacci type levels for now. I'm just going to go based on annotations. So I have a forecast. Now this is a short-term forecast on the weekly chart. there's no guarantee it will be met, but I'm going to transpose it to the new chart. So I'm going to go ahead and first go over to the old chart and get the style of whatever that line is. That way I don't have to manually change it to pink and a certain thickness. I'm just going to recreate it. And the good thing about rolling futures contracts is that your dates will be exactly the same, possibly similar, but most likely exactly the same. So this week ending April 19th, this is also the week ending April 19th. So if I want to recreate that tool, I can first create that first part here, and then I want to delete it on the old chart. Notice that you're going to create and delete right away so that you don't get confused by your annotations. Ultimately, at the end of this process, we're going to delete this whole September weekly chart from this December workspace, okay? I also have to delete the actual line here because those of you who know some of my loss forecasting methods, you know that that can't just be copied and pasted over. There is a method to this. Okay, great. That one's done. Now I'm going to go back and see if there's any others. Now I'm going to only bring over annotations that I feel are going to be relatively, relevant to me in the current action. So for me right now, a forecast that's come and gone, those are not worth bringing over. It's not really worth my time. This price low definitely is. So I can recreate that, the one from April 19th. But we had already traded through it, so now what's more relevant is actually the more recent low from August 9th. So notice how in getting ready for contract roll, you're not just moving your annotations, you're actually doing some analysis, which is great. You're getting an even better sense of your market. All right, similarly, let's go ahead with the drives. These drives that are on here, the GAN moves, those look very similar to what took place on the December contract. So I'm going to again go change the setting of my trend line tool to match that one so it's comparable and recreate the drives. So I'm just creating new on the right hand side, then deleting on the left. Create new on the new contract, delete from the old. Again, it's like moving a house, okay? And now I have what I need on the current contract chart. And now it's up to me to decide if I need anything else. Well, this line here marks the extreme contract high. That's an important line to have. So I'll edit my horizontal line to match that style. And then I'll continue on here. So you can see the prices are different, but it still was the important contract high. And then last but not least, I have some long-term GAN projections. However, those were based on when I rolled the contract previously, and to me may not be as useful. So I don't necessarily transpose long-term projections. I rather have fresh ones that I'm dealing with going forward. So I'm not going to transpose these. I'm just going to delete them. So now you've noticed the house has moved, right? I don't have anything left on the old September contract. I have what I need on the new December contract. So now I can just close out the old September contract, maximize the December one, and this page is set. So I can just save my workspace and move forward. So this is the same process that I'll keep going with and doing now for the daily chart. Now there's going to be more annotations to clean up on the copy on the daily chart, and that's okay. It's even more nuance and detail. So here's all my annotations on that daily September contract. Here's that exact copy of it. And I'm going to expand this right-hand side and delete everything, then change it to December. I'm doing this on purpose because it's literally bringing my attention to every annotation I had. And for deleting, it's also easy if you just go right to left. Because remember, we still have the copy of them on the left-hand side. Okay, so I've got this part clean. I've got these drives back here. And that's all she wrote. So now that I cleaned up the right-hand chart, I'm going to change this to September, or December rather. And that's ESZ24. Then same drill, I'm going to add one annotation and then save my work so that I don't lose it. So now let's look at what the annotations were in September. I like to look at the most recent action first. So when you're rolling on the daily chart, I think going back 3 to 4 months is plenty. You don't need to go back to the beginning of the year or anything like that right away. Okay. This midpoint of this red candle here, it's come and gone. But the midpoint of this interesting September 11th candle is still relevant. So that could be the first annotation I add to my chart. Or I may adjust it, and I frankly think I would adjust it and instead annotate the low from September 6th. So now that I have one new annotation on my chart, this is the beginning of doing new work and not wanting to lose it. I'm going to save that. And this is going to be ESZ24. I had my weekly, now I'll have a daily, and I'm going to just put D for short. And it's the same process, taking everything over that's relevant. I don't think I need this 50% retracement anymore, although it was very interesting to see how this correction lower here in early September retraced almost exactly 50%. I would like to still be aware of this price high that's at the contract high that's shaping everything. So on the December contract, the numbers will be different and the bar might even have a little different shape to it, but it's still the same idea. Now I can delete that over here. I'm just expanding my old chart to see what other annotations I have here. And some of these are not needed anymore. They're just too long-term or have already come and gone. I'm not carrying over the fibs, like I said. I will draw new Gann drives. So let me draw new fresh Gann drives here. So coming back to the move off of the April 19th low, this is comparable to what it looked like on the weekly chart. Right? This was the weekly chart. But remember, that was doing much more history. That was going back to October. Now, on the daily chart, we're just going back to April 19th. And this is not going to actually be the breakdown here. There's a little drive here along the way. So as you do these steps, you're going to kind of go layer in, like a snowflake, right? Go to the inside layer, inside layer, inside layer. And it's going to get you really close to and better understanding the action. You can always add new annotations as well. You aren't only going to transpose what was old. All right, I just want to first make sure I bring over everything that was old. And the last bit here is this sort of salmon colored set of trend lines that I think would be beneficial to recreate. So when you recreate trend lines, again, get the same settings. So in this case, this salmon or whatever color I used, same thing with the line thickness and everything else. Now let's look at the origin point, April 19th, May 31st. So connect to the same date points. That's how you know you have the same trend line. Then for this dash line up top, it's the projection of this line that was down below. So I'm going to create a new parallel and I'm going to hook it to the same date, May 23rd, May 23rd. So now, if we make our way back towards those lines, we know that they could be potential resistance. And again, like moving house, I've moved the trend line so they go off the old chart. Last but not least is this more detailed forecast, which again we had on the weekly chart. So I'm going to make that new one. Again, I can't just copy it from the old chart and bring it to the new. Contract charts don't work that way. They're looked at as completely fresh entities from an analysis perspective. And That's all she wrote on the daily chart. So now I have moved every annotation from my daily chart. I can delete that September chart. I can expand this December one. I can hit save one more time, and then I can go ahead and close my September daily chart and move forward. Now, for setting up the 60-minute chart, I do things a little bit differently, because on my 60-minute chart, I usually have quite a few annotations, a lot of old remarks, and this is because this is the time frame that I cover when I'm sharing my research on the E-mini multiple times a week in my S&P Edge Pro Skinny and Mini report. So I don't want to delete and recreate every single one of these annotations. So I'm actually going to just start with a blank chart out of the gate. So I'm still going to make a new workspace. I'm still going to copy over the old contract, in this case that's September, but I'm simply going to find an iteration I have of a blank chart and paste that down here. So here's the blank chart on the right, the detail chart on the left, and now this right-hand side becomes the new contract, ESZ24. All right, now that I have that in place, I like to make an annotation or something so I can kind of get the needle moving here. So I'm going to open up my old chart. And for me, because I'm publishing a report, the first thing I might as well move is my little label. So I'm just going to open up the text. I'm going to update the style and then take all this on my cursor if I can. If not, I'll just retype it. So for now, I'll just bring in text, type S&P Edge Pro. Okay, so I have the blank December contract on the right and the old September contract on the left. And this is where I will also pay attention to what's happening in the two markets, because I'm going to bring these into my report. So when I write the Skinny and the Mini report, I do this in a Google Doc before I then share the final result with members. So here is the Google Doc with the most recent report. So I'm going to go ahead and take that report, copy all of its elements, paste it at the top, and then begin to change the date. So I'm going to post this a little differently. It's going to say contract rolled, and it will say skinny into, because I'm doing this on the weekend, Monday, Sep 16th. Okay. So I'm going to have two charts in here. So I'm going to explain exactly how that works. Okay, so I start by giving a little context. So as per the information at this website, which is the CME group, so I'll show you that here. So we'd head down to the year we're in and the month we're in, 2024-9, and you can see the roll date is 9/16, okay, for the US indices. As for the information at this website, today's report is rolled from the September 2024 contract to the December 2024 contract for the E-mini S&P 500 futures. And this is where I have two charts. Chart 1, prior commentary and recap reflect the SEP 2024 contract. Chart 2, outlook and key price levels reflect the new DEAS 2024 front month. All right. So that is going to change how we label these charts. So this is going to be chart 1, which I actually put that in the descriptor. And I'll prepare the analysis of what exactly happened. So I have to update the date and time and everything else. So let's go ahead and begin this prep as if this is going on here. All right, so I'm going to take the old outlook, put it up here for prior commentary. And when did I actually do that? That was on Thursday, September 12th at 9:14 a.m., okay? So I'm going to set that to the side for a second, and I'm going to stick to the old chart for a moment because, again, I'm providing updated analysis. I'm going to move this gray line to September 12th at 9 a.m. Okay. So on Thursday, September 12th at 9:14 a.m. Eastern, gray vertical line marks 10 a.m. Okay. I wrote during the overnight. Well, actually, let's stick to 9 a.m. because this weakness wasn't unfolding yet when I published. During the overnight, futures have remained higher. While above 5562, the outlook is for further gains toward the key 5593.25. If instead futures weaken below 5562, that would delay towards 5534. Okay, so now I'm going to write the recap of what actually happened. Futures traded lower beneath 5562, stabilizing at 5540.25. They then traded higher, and this is where I'm looking at what happened on the actual session, exceeding 5593.25 into the end of Thursday's regular session. Okay, so that was on Thursday. Now, because I didn't publish a report on Friday, I have to continue. From there, on Friday, futures continued higher, reaching, and we can just move these annotations to see because I'm not going to need to reuse all these. 5641.5. So I'm going to put this report or chart in the report, but I'm just going to annotate the levels that were discussed. I'm not going to change any others around. So I'm showing you exactly how I bring a contract up to speed and how I reflect on that in the analysis. So now what I'll do is I'm going to capture this chart image, and it's going to go in the report as not the primary. Okay, it's going to go as a secondary image. So I named that as the September ES contract. I'll put that right here. I'm going to replace this image. And then I'm going to capture the date and time, and because it's a Saturday, the time doesn't matter. The market's not trading. So that covers the chart one, the prior commentary, and the recap. Now, in order to write the rest of this, the outlook and the updated chart, I continue with the roll process. So now I'm going to just go ahead and do some analysis. So I have this old chart on the left, which I won't need anymore now that I captured the updated chart. I can go ahead and close the old September one. And now that I've been doing some work here, I should probably save this out. So I'm saving this as ESZ24, yep, and then 60-minute. Or in this case, 60. I'm trying shorthand and seeing how, because it kind of takes up less space on the panel. Okay, now is the last step of creating the new analysis, and this is what takes the most work, because what I now need to do is in the report, I need to now go to these September contract levels and replace them with their December counterparts or delete them. So here's how I do this. These levels, again, the dates will probably be comparable, but the numbers will not be equal. So I'm not deleting all the descriptions. Some of them may be useful, okay? But I am deleting the numbers. So I just want to keep those in case they're helpful. And now I have to change this to December and actually get those new values. So I'm gonna say what I'm capturing, but then update it on the right side instead of doing it on the same screen with you, okay? So again, I'm not taking every one of these things in the left-hand chart and transposing it. That's way too much on intraday time frame. I'm just starting fresh here. So the way I annotate support and resistance is with the horizontal line. This does take a bit of time, but once I get one down, it goes a little bit faster. So I'll do a couple with you and then I'll show how the rest shake out. So the contract high, 5730.50. I want to get this exact. And then I want to put a label on it and make it blue font. And that's it. I'm just going to go type in over on my document 5730.50, and I can always flash back to the daily chart and be like, yes, that is, it's not the contract high, it's a recent high here on September 3rd. So now I'm just going to 5730.50, Sep 3rd high. Now I'm getting the big ones first, and then I'll go for the smaller ones. So I can stay here in the daily chart because now I'm just pulling my levels. And I can say, all right, well, what about after that? This is all important, right? This entire range. So I can just type it all out. What's the date? July 16th. 5738.50. Old low July 16th. 5761.75. Midpoint July 16th range. And then last but not least, 5785 July 16th contract high. So that is pretty good amount of resistance to start with. Now let's come back to support. So we put in this high here and then these three levels. So now for support, I will start with what's on the daily chart. So I know I have 5600.25. Now I alternate between drawing and labeling. 5600.25 is this low right here, September 12th. I also like to put in the days, like of the week, if I can. So September 3rd was a Tuesday, July 16th was a Tuesday. Okay. I also have this 5590.50 old high, but that's like a bigger range. I think I'd rather get the intraday levels from the 60-minute chart. Okay, so now I have to take either using the horizontal line features or going back. So look, if I go back here and I hit 300 days of history, then I can go, and if I want, I can manually create those resistance lines, but because they're so far back, I'm just going to use the horizontal line feature. So the first one we had for resistance was 5738.50, referencing that July 16th range. Then I'm going to copy that out. We had 5761.75. That was the middle of the range. Notice that if you were doing this exercise on your own, it really starts to give you a feel for the levels, and you're going to be on this contract for 3 months. So this is actually it's like you're doing a deep cleaning on a house. You really get to know it, right? So there, I've now caught up with adding my resistance levels here. I'll do about 4 supports, and then I'll do the rest on my own, and I'll kind of wrap up the process. So for supports, we had 5600.25. So I'm going to go back to using just the trend line like this. So I'll make a copy of the one I have, 5600.25, change it to pink, and then I just kind of draw the line approximate and then label. Okay. Then I want to look at the more recent support. So we had this overnight low, 5665.25, or not overnight, it was on Friday. Intraday higher low. We have this right here, 5638.25. 5600.25. And then for now, I'm just going to go back to 5566.75. So now I have 4 supports. Four supports, 4 resistance levels. I can keep doing more, but I just want to kind of give you the essence of it. And so those are those 4 support levels. Now for me personally, I'm going to just delete these labels, and it's easier for me to just start analyzing again from scratch. But that takes us to the place where I will now go and do my own in-depth analysis. So I can review the weekly chart of the new contract, the daily chart of the new contract, all of the different elements of price, time, momentum, the 60-minute chart, and give my take on where things may be headed. And for me, writing the research in a way that is more about the bigger moves, because I will be doing this report and then not be trading for a bit. But that is the process to roll in contracts and starting to prepare your levels for your own analysis. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, let us know. And if you're viewing this as an SMPH Pro member currently, then you will get my resulting report that has the final contract roll set up, where I have the old analysis from the old contracts, in this case September 2024, and then the new analysis from the new contract, December 2024. So if you found value in this, depending on where you're watching it, please give it a like or a comment. Let me know if you'd like to see more instructions like this about the futures market, about the nuances, about, making the changes to your contracts and more. And I'll catch you soon.